Welcome to Christian World News, everyone. I'm Wendy Griffith.
And I'm Mark Martin. George Thomas is on assignment. Compassion for prisoners is one of Jesus' tests for being a disciple. But in Washington, D.C., prison reform is not a popular topic.
That's right, Mark. Evangelicals are among several groups supporting a law aimed at giving inmates a second chance. Now President Trump is backing that effort. Amber Strong has a story from America's capital.
The movement toward criminal justice reform received a welcome and necessary boost on Wednesday.
Today, I'm thrilled to announce my support for this bipartisan bill that will make our community safer and give former inmates a second chance at life after they have served their time.
The clock is ticking on Congress's chance to make real changes to the criminal justice system. And while things couldn't be more divided here on Capitol Hill, advocates say the time to act is now. They include Kelly Paul, wife of Senator Rand Paul.
I came to this issue a little bit through my work in Kentucky, visiting various halfway houses, recovery centers like the Hope House and the Isaiah House, and realizing how pervasive our drug problem is and how we need alternatives to incarcerating people.
Paul also saw how prison life specifically affected female inmates.
People are not aware of some of the things that were going on in our prisons. First and foremost, women who were giving birth were being shackled.
For Paul, fixing the problem reaches directly to the heart of justice, right and wrong.
If you look at the numbers, that whites and blacks use drugs at the same levels, but if you look at the rates of incarceration, you know, people of color are incarcerated at much higher rates. I'm a conservative, but I always say, you know, big government really hurts people from all walks of life. I think a lot of times when progressives hear conservatives talk about big government, they think we're just concerned about taxes or overregulation or business or economics. But really, this is a civil rights issue.
So Mrs. Paul is doing something she says her friends aren't used to seeing, bringing her desire to right those wrongs straight to Washington. And she's not alone. The push for criminal justice reform extends far beyond the halls of Congress. Everyone from Christian advocacy groups to celebrities to the president's son-in-law, all working together for change.
Jared Kushner has been the pivotal player in this. He personally comes to this issue. His own father was incarcerated, and he has been the driving force inside of the White House in making sure that this gets done.
Former prisoners have also been instrumental in this fight, along with those who preach about second chances. 2,000 pastors signed a letter in support of Congress's latest effort. The bill, dubbed the First Step Act, calls for more opportunities to receive good time credit, better conditions for women, and incarcerating prisoners closer to families. It's been a tough decision for a president who campaigned on law and order, but support from the National Fraternal Order of Police seemed to help balance the scales.
The bill includes reasonable sentencing reforms while keeping dangerous and violent criminals off our streets.
The ball is now in the Senate's court, where advocates hope this lame duck session can lead to a second chance for prisoners and families across the nation. Amber Strong, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, Amber. Pastor Paula White is a faith advisor to President Trump. She's played a major role in the effort to reform our justice system. Earlier on CBN's Faith Nation, D.C. reporter Jenna Browder spoke with Paula White and her husband Jonathan Kane to talk about how the idea came about and why it's so important to our nation.
Well, what started as just a conversation. We had a dinner, 40 of us that have been friends of the president and people of faith when he first went into office. And Jared and Ivanka were there and some of the senior advisors. It really started as a small seed. And at Jared's table, they were talking about, you know, if every church adopted someone when they came out of prison, we could solve the recidivism rate. And of course, this was a passion of Jared. So we began to do listening sessions and research and best practices. And here we are, right up to the First Step Act. And I believe that Congress, the House, will do the right thing, that they will pass this bipartisan bill, and that we will see one of the greatest wins for humanity, because we all want people's lives to be better. We all deserve a second chance. While it really is very protective, it still secures things with security, but what it does do is it gives people vocational training, faith-based programs to be able to be housed, to be able to be educated, get the skills, continue mentoring. To that reacclimation is what's so vitally important.
Well, both of you are real fixtures at the White House. You are constantly there. Jonathan, this next question for you. What does it say about this administration that it is so open and so invitational toward evangelicals and the faith community?
Well, you know, Mr. Trump has always had a heart for God. His mother was a devout Christian. He still has the Bible that you know, she gave him. And from the very beginning, you know, he spoke to faith leaders before he was president, and felt very strongly that Christians needed a voice and needed to vocalize their feelings about what's going on in the world. And so I'm not surprised that, you know, promises made, promises kept here. Also, you know, Vice President Pence and his heart, you know, and the prayer now that we're seeing, like we were at in the treaty room at the Indian treaty room at the Eisenhower building. Many of the worship leaders all came, and pastors, to hear the fine works that this administration is doing.
And Paula, I know you posted a video, I think this might have been the same thing, where it was a room full of faith-filled believers worshiping and singing.
Worship leaders, yeah, very, you know, Danny Goki and many others came. What can we do, you know? And they want, it's time now. They feel like they can voice their opinions, and it's just really refreshing to see.
How often does something like that happen?
All the time. And that's what, Jenna, people get so surprised. Like, I'll never forget when we went into office and prayed over President Trump, and it went viral. And I'll say secular news media was like, what's going on? You know, what's happening? And what was happening is everyday normal.
That's wonderful to hear. A number of ministries are focused on encouraging and helping Christians to run for public office. One that's been at it for decades here in Washington now finds itself at the center of the battle for America's soul. Senior Washington correspondent Jennifer Wishon explains.
The D. James Kennedy Center for Christian Statesmanship has one goal: to equip Christian leaders for battle in the public arena.
We train them in the U.S. Constitution, in biblical worldview, political philosophy, and then we have classes on public speaking, how to do media interviews, how to handle ambush interviews, all the things that they're going to face out there on the campaign trail.
Ray Gonzalez completed the program and just ran for Congress in Texas.
I believe that one of the things that has driven a lot of folks to the polls is seeing just how far our country has veered from biblical principles. So to fix that, the only thing left for voters to do is to go to the polls. But the one thing that those of us who have been called to serve can do is to actually run for office.
Each year, the center awards a leader who lives life in a way that honors God. And Tuesday, that distinction went to Oklahoma Senator Jim Inhofe for making his life count for Christ. Oklahoma's junior Senator James Langford previously received the award.
It's very interesting for me to be able to hear some people say, well, if you come from a biblical worldview, then really that's a ministry or that's private life. That doesn't really spill over into your public life. That's not only contrary to who we are as Americans, that's contrary to what we believe even as Christians. 36 of the 39 books of the Old Testament were written to, by, or about a political leader. A third of the New Testament was written to a political leader. Saul's mission when he became Paul was to go to the Jews, the Gentiles, and the Gentile kings. This political engagement in this ministry to people in politics, as well as engaging in what is our culture, should be a part of who we are.
Having people with a biblical worldview, people who know how to articulate what the scriptures say, and to be able to present that to others, and to be able to defend their positions in that way, we need more of that in this country.
And the center is accepting Christian students to begin classes in January, February, and March of 2019. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
Coming up, a terrified teen lost at sea. See how the Bible helped bring him home.